Face last week. Soccer.
We're still here.
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah. But I haven't done it yet or checked it out.
Yellow card.
It was stuff that they went online where we did it before. So if it still can happen, sure. See, I heard one.
Because I'm with the kind of.
Yes. Exactly. I have no idea. I'm just trying to do everything online now. Went into the same thing with Guilford Walmart a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Literally walked in and walked out.
What's crazy is our incentives would actually had tons of like when you first walked in there's those self-checkout.
Yeah.
They were
Oh.
I have no idea. And then of course they have 2 rooms and then it's expensive. There's 3 lines for everything. How many trees is it? The point is we could have sold it, and that was big. Mid-morning on a, like I can't imagine. Would you like anything? It has our budget or the possible town budget?
Oh, the town budget.
I had him actually.
Oh, the town budget. Okay. Yeah.
All right, I'll call this meeting to order at 6:32. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now do a roll call.
Rebecca Johnson, Brandy Pelletier,
Carol Locke.
Jason Henry.
Jacob Chapter.
Karen Haritonoff.
Eunice Landry.
Tim Broderick.
Heidi Duper,
Isla Adkins.
Pam McLeod.
Eliza Jolie,
Ann Pierce.
Grace Simonson.
I'll now open up the first public input. And seeing none, I will now close the public input. Agenda review.
Make a motion to accept the agenda.
A second.
I'd like to add one item under reports, and that would be a report from our student rep. We'll do that before the Finance Committee. Anybody else? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. We now have a presentation scheduled for the master schedule. This is the committee that's been working on developing a schedule or a proposal for a schedule for next year.
You might want to go to the other end.
I'm gonna be big for now.
A lot more pleasant.
No, I'm right here.
Right down. I built more.
You just blew it. Do your favorite.
My least favorite.
Okay,
Apologize to the mayor.
the superintendent worked with you previously to establish a master scheduling committee. There are 12 members, some selected by you and Superintendent Broderick, others, the other members selected by the EMTA. 12 of us consistently met every couple of weeks starting in September. We reviewed what other schools have for schedules. We read literature, we shared, we discussed, we debated. We went through a fairly healthy process to get to where we are tonight. And so what we did is we created a couple of different proposals that we discussed with each other, and we came to a consensus amongst our group that we would then propose schedules to the faculty for feedback. And so we did that. Took some of that feedback and came back to the drawing board and worked on and tweaked one proposal that our group got behind and supported the most, which is this what we're calling a 7-period hybrid schedule with then tax law. It's represented in the handout that is in front of you tonight. So at this time, I'm going to ask Justin Carlone to stand up and speak to specifically on the 7-period hybrid schedule.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? I'm Justin Carlone, and I am up here representing the Master Schedule Committee. We took a lot of time to plan this, and we came up with this schedule that we hope that you will like. It's called the 7-period hybrid with the den and pack block. And one of the things that we did in this committee was we tried to figure out what it is that we're lacking at our school. There's a couple of things that we just don't seem to be addressing as well as we think we could. The sense of community, sense of connectedness. Let's see here. There we go. A sense of connectedness, a sense of the ability to create coaching and mentoring relationships with the students. We can do that, and we do it. Like I'm a tennis coach. Peter Long's a tennis coach. We all do things after school, but it's not something that is by design. So we really wanted to create a schedule that addressed some of those things, especially once COVID gets over and done with, hopefully soon. Then we have this unique opportunity to almost start from scratch. So we really wanted to make sure that this schedule implemented community, mentoring, coaching style relationships with students by design and in a way that didn't disenfranchise students that didn't have vehicle access, didn't have after-school transportation, so that they could participate in clubs and honor societies and things like that. So that was one of our main intents. The other issue is we had a lot of teachers that like teaching shorter periods, 50 minutes. We had a lot of teachers that like teaching the blocks. So this schedule really tries to kind of please everybody. Hopefully it pleases the majority of people. On the back of the sheet that you have are the tenets of the proposal. It is a 7-credit year to maximize continuity of learning. So an English class is a full year. Right now, with our block schedule, an English class is a semester. So you could go second semester without an English class, summer, the following semester of the fall without an English class, and then an English class the following. So you could go a full year without English. So we really thought that it was important to have continuity of learning. So a 7-credit year with full year-long, full credit classes, and half-credit classes are a semester. So that would be 3 days a week. 2 days a week, we have 77-minute blocks. So these 77-minute blocks would allow for, what did I do? Jay?
The computer went to sleep.
Just got to touch the computer.
Yeah.
Just touch the mouse.
Did I put it to sleep? I hit a button that's... There we go. Thank you. Stupid thumbs. So 2 days a week, we want to have a block schedule where teachers can go into deeper discussion, they can have project-based learning, they can have lab time, and and time for longer assessments and things like that. So we really did think that that was valuable. It also kind of allows for a variety of the week in the schedule. So students aren't going to do the exact same thing every single day. On Monday, they're going to have, if they signed up for 7 classes, they would have 7 classes on Monday. On Tuesday, they would have periods 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's it for 7 minutes each. This schedule also allows for something that we had the last 2 years, which was a shared planning time in the mornings. Teachers right now have 5 days of shared planning from 8 to 9. This schedule would allow for 2 days a week to continue that shared planning time, which is really good for teachers to work together, to collaborate, develop best practices, and to also work on professional development and also work on the pack time. And you're probably wondering what the DEN and the pack time are. Those are the last 2 tenets of the proposal. So this is what you're already looking at. I'm just going to skip ahead because you already have that reference point. The DEN time is an acronym for Develop, Encourage, and Navigate, which I think Nicole came up with, which was very nice. DEN is basically 15 minutes of a homeroom style time where students can sign up for the pack time, which it would be the following week. They could decide what they want to sign up for. We also have a news station that is hopefully going to be implemented next year. They'd be able to watch the PMHS news station at this time too. And they can also work with the same teacher. They have the same teacher in DEN for the full year in small groups to address any type of academic needs that they have. So that's the DEN. It's like I'm too far away from it. So, PAC time. PAC is an acronym as well, Prospect Assembly for Culture and Knowledge. It is a 60-minute period, 1 day a week, designed for all students to participate in activities that are all non-academic based activities that could include things like cross-country skiing. That's my son. I'm an avid cross-country skier, and I like to take him out and see if I can hurt him some accidentally. I wouldn't do that to your kids. But it is something. We've got plenty of trails out back. We could take 60 minutes. Kids could bring their skis, and we could go cross-country skiing for 60 minutes. If there's a teacher who's really passionate about chess, then they could have students sign up and go play chess for 60 minutes. It could be a time to play cards in Mr. Sofinos' room, for example. If he really wanted to do that with the students, we could do that for 60 minutes, once a week. But it's also a great time to do things like History Club, Dungeons and Dragons Club, which we don't have, but it's a great club. A lot of more introverted kids would really benefit from having a club like that. Robotics could happen at that time. As a member of the counseling department, we could have college essay workshops. We could certainly have group discussions on mental health, which is something that we don't really have a great opportunity to do at Prospect Mountain. Also, students interested in going to college, we can certainly set up a Q&A on the Common Application or FAFSA or the CSS profile or any of that college-related stuff. The acting club could happen at this time. The environmental club could happen at this time. Project Search, Tri-M, NHS, Student Council, Winter Carnival planning, which there's never enough time for. Mr. Stevens is really interested in having a flag football team. He thinks it would be the most popular thing that we could do. We could also have guest speakers come at this time. It would not impact academics at all. We also have a greenhouse inside that barely gets used right now. We could have a club that helps to maintain a winter greenhouse, and then we could reintroduce a garden out back here. maybe even serve some of that food during lunch. We could have a songwriting workshop during this time. I apologize about the basement picture. It's the only one I could find for ping pong, but we could have ping pong tournaments. We did that a couple years back. It was great, even though I lost. Could have a friendly soccer match with students, which we do every year with Prospect United, but this is something that we could do even more often than that. We did win this year. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. I think we've won every year.
No,
Right.
legitimately.
Oh, yeah. I just threw this one in because I like this picture of the sun lying on the grass. But I do think it's valuable to take some time and just check out of all the hustle and bustle, and maybe some time to just lie on the grass would be nice as well. Carefree reading time, going down the stairs. A skateboarding club. I like that picture. This would really be a time for anything that the adults in the school have a passion for. And I do think that a lot of adults in the school have a lot of passions that they would like to introduce to the students that they otherwise really just aren't able to do. So this is not a unique idea. I think that a lot of schools you'll find in the state do have something like this. In fact, I surveyed all the guidance directors in the school, in the state. They didn't all get back to me, but 26 of the 29 that did do have some form of advisory or flex time that runs at least once a week. There's a lot of value in developing healthy relationships, and we just don't really have that right now in our school by design. So this is it's a big undertaking to have something like this. I think that we would have to have a committee that is designed to develop what pack time would be, and I think that it would be important to actually have mapped out. I think there's 36 weeks of school, 36 36 days of pack activities that the students can sign up for through Infinite Campus before the start of the school year. I think that'd be crucial. So I think that if we had a committee with teachers and other vested parties, it would be really effective to get ahead of this so that we're not kind of running around trying to figure out how to implement it at the last minute. And that's it.
I have a question.
I have questions too.
The den time.
Yes.
How did you choose 15 minutes a week? Is that long enough? Because
It's a good question. So if you look at the schedule, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, in order to have the same start time and end time, on Tuesdays there are 4 77-minute classes, and because it would be a 7-period schedule, on Thursdays there's only 3 classes.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives us 77 minutes to play with. So 15 minutes is kind of not really enough time, but 60 minutes is really, I think, the ideal time to have pack time, so the kids can get outside, run around for an hour, and come back in. I'm not even sure 60 minutes is long enough for that.
I agree. I agree. I think the pack time and the den time are both very valuable. I'm very familiar with team advisory groups, but daily is what we used to have for our team advisory group. I realized realistically you can't do daily, but I was wondering if there was some time that you could steal so they could have a check-in with their den person. I think once a week they're going to go all week without having that check-in with their team. That's all.
Yeah.
I didn't know if there was a way you could kind of squeeze some more time out for that den.
I think that's a possibility. The only thing that worries me is implementing these 2 changes. I think if we asked teachers to have that other change like every day, it might, I don't want to overwhelm anybody. You know what I mean? So if we had kind of a homeroom every day of 15 minutes in addition to.
Even if
this-
it was 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
And then did 15 on Thursday. I just was thinking of a way for them to do a check-in every day with that person who's their team leader. To me, that's very valuable.
Yeah.
To have that teacher to say, wow, I'm having an awful day, can I meet with you later even?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Well, one thing I will add is, right now, as a guidance counselor, students reach out to me all the time through chat, through Google Chat, and it's really their go-to form of communication. So I do think that if we kept it at just one day a week and made that connection, the students are going to reach out to that person if they trust that person and if they need them, because they do it all the time for us and teachers as well.
I think putting a lot of thought into that relationship between that group and the teacher is really important too, and making sure they do have somebody that they trust and a process that they can request a change or, something,
You mean if the relationship isn't working out?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
When we had a homeroom, we did have situations where students requested a change, and if it was a legitimate reason, then we did give them that change.
So is this going to be mandatory?
The
What
pack
about-
time?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good question.
What about for the kids who are doing well,
Mhm.
don't want to cross-country ski, or would rather go to work,
Mhm.
or, I mean, is this a mandatory thing, and how are you going to judge that? And what about the kids that aren't doing well and don't want to be here? And I also didn't hear anything about any intervention time
Mhm.
or support for those kids. I think it's a great idea. These are just questions
Yeah.
of how the implementation.
Yep.
So that it doesn't turn into a popularity contest. And I also, I might as well just keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
And then the clubs that are being run, I'm assuming that those are non-paid positions? Because how is it fair to have a paid position meet during the day and then another paid position meet after school?
Okay. So yeah, there's a lot to
Lots of
think
questions,
about.
I know.
Yeah. So the one that sticks out is it mandatory?
Mm-hmm.
And it is something that is required for students to participate in, but there are going to be exceptions to that participation. The feeling that I have is that students, we find that the highest risk students are here every single day because it's a comfortable place for them. So the idea is that they're going to enjoy it, and so that because they're not being graded on this, there's no record of them, other than attendance. But I don't think we're going to have to tie it into some sort of discipline if they don't show up, because I think that they're going to want to do it. That's my hope.
Yeah.
So those were just examples.
Yeah.
Honestly, if there's a teacher that does yoga or a teacher that knows Chinese and there's going to be different options, not just
Right.
those specific things. So that's where we want to get the teachers involved. What are you good at and what do you want to teach other people? And then the kids will have all these options they can choose from, and they'll have to choose every week, I believe, right?
Well, that's the other thing we haven't worked out. That's why we would need a committee to really lock down, what will it look like? Will they be doing flag football for, a full term, or will they do it just once and then sign up for another thing? We don't have all those details. That's something we would need
Right.
another.
And the teachers will be required to do it, or is that on a volunteer basis, or how does that?
So the idea behind this and what we were tasked to do was come up with the schedule.
Yeah.
And so think of this as phase one, where the schedule is done.
Okay.
The next phase of this, we'll be figuring out exactly and specifically what Pack and Den will represent. And we may have times where we do need to shuffle the times and say, hey, we have something going on like Winter Carnival, which requires classes to work together, so we adjust that time accordingly. We have that 75 minutes to play with, one week it can be 60 to 15, and the next week it could be 30 to 40, depending on what the needs assessment are for that particular time.
Right.
As for the buy-in for people, what we're really trying to create here is what we believe as a committee is the most essential thing for Prospect to get back to where it once was. We need to reestablish relationships. And it's not because of anything that we did or that kids did. It's the result of where our society is right now as a result of what we've all gone through. I meet with state administrators on a weekly basis, and everyone is going through the same problem. People are in a tough place, adults and kids. The secret to repairing that is not overloading them with academics or trying to make up learning loss in the classroom. It is building relationships. So the best way that we came up with to begin the process of repairing the big picture is establishing positive relationships with people. But the details do need to still be worked out in terms of what we're going to offer, who's going to do it. What we did agree upon is that we're all in it. It's going to be an all or nothing. In terms of can kids leave early, that's one of the things that we're going to have to figure out. Pam?
I just wanted to add that, yeah, I agree. I think, I work in a school district, you do too, and
Yeah.
I know it's a huge issue, and it is something this school needs more of. I would like to see, as you're planning that next phase, some required SEL piece, maybe once a month, or, because all kids could benefit from learning about what is anxiety, or, and teachers could too. I mean, I just, in the last 10 years, started learning about that stuff, and it was really valuable for me. So just some kind of piece, however it's delivered, to really try to reach everybody and teach them about those SEL pieces.
I do think part of the idea is to train all of us, all the staff, on anxiety and identifying depression, because these, like the pack time isn't really for developing lessons. I think that might take away from the experience, actually. I mean, I think it's just to go out there and kind of make these kind of mentorship connections with the students, and then they're going to, trust that person, and then maybe some of the issues that they're dealing with might come out inadvertently, and we want to make sure that everybody has the tools and skill set to properly identify and address it.
It's a tough thing.
Right, and it may take some time to build too. As in the first year, you may have more of those kids who are like, I don't want to be involved, and as it becomes more popular and more commonplace. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it's a great idea. I'm always thinking structurally, like how does that work with all the different kids?
Can I ask about so one of the reasons the block schedule that we have now was to address the executive functioning issues and the fewer classes. So are you thinking about when we go back to a 7, and I love this hybrid schedule, by the way, I know how tough it is to come to consensus in a group like this. I'm sure it was really challenging, and we're back to managing 7 classes at once. So is there thought about how to help kids really adjust back to that schedule? Particularly, I mean, our juniors, right? They'll be going into senior year having made this transition after 2 years so our next year's juniors and seniors, I think, would be in the same boat.
Yeah. Regardless of what we do as a schedule, we're kind of in the same spot. If we were to continue with a block schedule, we're going to be at the mercy of what some of the negative components and characteristics are of a block schedule. If we were to go back to a 7-period day, for 50% of the building, it's something they haven't experienced yet here. So unfortunately, there's going to be a bubble there that we just have to pull that cord and make the best out of it. When we went to the block schedule, executive function was certainly a reason that we did what we did, knowing full well that sitting in front of a computer and trying to balance 7 periods a day, 7 classes, 7 teachers, that was going to be a lot. We don't have any data from the previous 10 years when we've been running a 7-period day that students' executive function has been overwhelming. So I would like to think, based on that observational data that we've collected over the years, that kids are going to adjust to what we are offering, as long as we are doing the best as we can as the adults to provide good, effective instruction.
I do want to add in, I do think it's important, maybe as part of a committee that's formed for the developing PAC, but also to develop a kind of map out when different tests are issued, because you don't want to have 7 exams on Monday. It just happens to fall on Monday. So I do think that we can kind of design it, you know, with that in mind, to make sure that kids aren't going to be overwhelmed on a regular basis.
These days stay as is, right? No matter if there's a holiday or a...
Yeah.
And we get to build that schedule, so we get to look at how long winter break is or when February break starts, and we can itemize that day out and say, hey, tomorrow is long in advance. Tomorrow is going to be a shortened day or a block day.
We were thinking about making like the 2 days before Thanksgiving, maybe a Tuesday, Thursday ahead, and we could map that out ahead of time.
Karen, you had some...
I wanted to applaud the committee for this work, because I'm just kind of blown away and impressed by this creative solution where you found a balance between the continuity for the core classes and the deep dives, and adding in the community building. I think it's a great start to make the changes. And I had 2 questions. So on the days with the longer periods, are those typically the periods that are core courses, or how does that work? I mean, I'm just wondering, if someone had an elective, would that end up being one of their longer periods sometimes?
Your period 1 class could be math, and on those 7-period days, you have math for 50 minutes, and on that Tuesday and Thursday, you have math for 75 minutes. The only difference there would be a full credit course versus a half credit course. A half credit course would only meet for the first half of the year versus second half of the year. But otherwise, your period 1 is period 1, regardless of the day it falls on.
Okay. I'm just wondering if there's maybe a typo, because I think, would Tuesdays be half the classes and Thursdays be the other half of the classes?
Yes. So Tuesdays, period 1, 2, 3, and 4. Thursdays, 5, 6, 7, and
that's what okay.
So you would only have period 1. You would only have any class that you have signed up for 4 days a week.
Okay, because it looks like period 1 and period 2 are on both of the longs.
Yeah, right.
That is a typo.
Okay,
thank you, ma'am.
That makes sense. Makes more sense. Okay, thanks. And my other question was about PAC time. I was wondering if you're planning any type of student survey to try to understand what interests might be out there. And
that was discussed, actually. We're not sure, but I like the idea right now of generating the activities from the teachers, and because they're going to want to do what they're comfortable with doing, and also I think you don't know what you don't know, so the students may have no idea, like, I want to learn how to fly or something like that. They may not know exactly what it is that we can offer or we're capable of offering.
And it's an evolving process. The stuff that we can do in the fall, we're not going to be able to do all the same things during the winter versus the springtime. So it's got to be evolving as time goes. We may find that, man, Justin's cross-country tutorials were awful and nobody's signing up for it. People just would rather lay it on the grass and stare at the sun. So it has to be a working document that evolves, over the course of the year.
There's got to be some type of technology as well, some type of program.
Yeah, there's a lot of software that's out there that allows kids to sign up with it.
Some of it you have to cap the number of.
Yep.
kids.
It's actually embedded in Infinite Campus.
Oh, good.
I spoke with Tom Rubino about it, so.
I wonder if there's room also for student-led activities with a mentor. Some of the upperclassmen might have some, I'm thinking about Nelson and his blacksmithing skills, you know, those kinds of things where somebody's an expert in something.
That's awesome.
It is important though, like there is 2 different start times to the day. So it's, I don't want to catch anybody by surprise on that. So I think that people will get used to it, but on 3 days a week, school starts at 8, and 2 days a week, school starts at 9.
Since we're in a board meeting, I'm wondering if you could name the members of the committee so we can sort of see the makeup and balance of the committee and give them some recognition as well.
We had Troy Corvo representing the art department in PMTA, Peter Long, French teacher and president of the PMTA, Mike Boland, U.S. history teacher, social studies department member of the PMTA, Jen Larson, who is a special education case manager, member of the PMTA, Ryan Heichel, woodshop teacher, robotics advisor, member of the PMTA, Tom Stevens, also a member of the PMTA, choral or band director, rather. Justin, who is the counseling director, myself as principal, Kathy Fraser, who is not a member of the PMTA, but is our library media specialist. And for a couple of meetings, we had the interim. I'm not done, man. Where did you go? For a couple of meetings, we had special ed director, the one that we had started the year with, and rounding out was Nicole, paraprofessional here, parent here as well, a member of and president of the para. Yes, so I did forget McStravick. Chris McStravick, member of the PMTA and math department teacher.
And I would just point out to all of you word that neither the principal nor the president of the Teachers Association nor I led and chaired this committee. I brought in a facilitator to work with them. I mean, I was happy to hear it from one of you already, impressed with their work, not only because there's an interesting and creative solution to the problem here, but because it is truly a group effort and consensus is not easy. They've done something, in my view, very impressive. Here, there are details to be worked out, but I think that where they've arrived is absolutely to be commended.
I'll add my thank yous. Thank you very much for all your hard work and good results.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Great. What are you ladies doing down there?
We need help down here. I'm plugging the device.
It just pulls out, so the electrical socket there. There you go.
Well, you could have told me it was right here by my feet.
Now this is more complicated.
You planned this whole thing just for that moment.
All right, we'll now move on to getting approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2021.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, we'll now go on to have a report from our student rep, and welcome.
So let me introduce, this is Grace Simonson, and introduce herself. She's president of the junior class. She is one of our top leaders here in the building, a leading member of student council. If there's something going on in school that has a positive attachment to it, Grace is usually associated with it, if not, is uncontent. She's incredibly active, has been that way from day one when she stepped inside the school as a freshman, immediately started participating and making some pretty big time decisions and after student council. So, we're very fortunate to have Grace here, and one of the best parts is that she's only a junior, which means, you know, she's got a lot of years.
Thanks. All right, so in November, we had 11 new inductees for National Honor Society. And coming up this month, December 26th, we have new Tri-M members being inducted. We recently ran a food drive for National Honor Society, which a senior Aiden Conrad ran, and we were able to donate just over 1,200 non-perishable items to the Alton and Barnstead food pantries. So we had a lot of good participation on that. Sophomore Grace Brooks was recently selected to attend the Hovey Leadership Conference at St. Anselm's College in June. November 5th, our environmental club went to Short Sands Beach in North Maine and collected just over 35 pounds of waste. The juniors just ran a raffle for 25 Days of Christmas, and we raised around $3,300, so that was a really good turnout. With Student Council is planning the Winter Bash events, which will take place on December 22nd, and students are very excited about that. At the NHIAA State Cross Country Championship, our girls cross country team finished 10th, and the boys team finished 18th. Our runners from Prospect did really well and placed high. We had 59 scholar athletes for the fall sports season, and just under 200 students made honor roll. Our basketball and ski team have both started, and our first basketball game is this Friday, and also on December 16th is our band Christmas concert. So that is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions for her? Thanks again.
Easy in this is only the first one.
I think you should question her.
All right, we'll move on to the Finance Committee.
So the Finance Committee is very happy that the main part of budget season is almost complete. We reviewed the expenditures, and Eunice and I met with the JMA Joint Budget Committee last Wednesday, so that was members of the Alton and Barnstead budget committees. We reviewed the proposed budget with them. We actually made it through the whole thing, which was amazing. And we left with maybe 5 questions to answer, which were nothing earth-shattering. They did not request any specific changes, so it looks like it will stay as is. And we are working on what our next meeting will be, because we have to tie in a public hearing. So we probably will only have one more meeting. We also discussed what our schedule looks like for SB2, and discussed some of the implications that a tuition agreement might have on warrant articles and the budget going forward. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Karen?
Just in terms of budget, it feels like the new schedule might have a budget impact in terms of supplies for these activities, so we might want to consider, Tim's already considered it, I could tell by the look on his face.
Yes, we are required under ESSER 3 to set aside 20% of our allocation for programs to address learning loss due to the pandemic. I'm sure we can find everything we need right there.
All right, anything else for finance? All right, we'll go on to the principal's report.
I don't have a lot to offer at this point. Grace stole all of my material. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about what's going on. We're in the midst of things. Everybody's doing what they need to be doing. I believe I mentioned at the last board meeting about some of the school-wide initiatives that we have going. Over the summer, we read the Life is Good book. We've been going through the 10 superpowers. Month of November was all about gratitude, and so we had school-wide activities and initiatives that we've been trying to impress upon everybody. This month, it's compassion. So we have, again, added activities and strategies that we're going to be doing amongst the adults as well as the kids to try to get people to show more compassion. All the while keeping up with the previous superpowers as well, creativity and openness and gratitude. So we are trying to make this a better place, and it's not to imply that it is a bad place, but as I mentioned earlier, there are things that need to be improved upon. School right now is a microcosm of what our society is like, and our society right now is in a place that me and my 28 years of life have never seen before. Is that funny, man? We're trying to do our part. We're trying to figure out what we can do and how we can do it and what's reasonable. It's just not as easy to say, we need to write better curriculum, we need to give better tests, we need to be harder on this and that. It doesn't work like that. And any of you who have kids, who've had kids and work in a school system understand it's not just an overnight process. What we've experienced, not as a school but as communities for the past 2 years, is going to have a ripple effect that is going to last for many years into the future. And so we're just doing the best we can to do our part to expedite improvement.
I love the Christmas tree with the geometry.
Yeah.
Made by the geometry students. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if you didn't notice it when you walked through the cafeteria, it's on the little platform there. There's a tree, all ornaments made by all the geometry students who are taking geometry class this semester.
The one I really like is the one that must be for the SRO, because it's got donuts on it.
So they're taking donations. I think they're selling ornaments for that to benefit the Lakes Region Child Advocate. I still haven't figured out how we buy the donations.
It's through the SROs. They have school email. You can email one of them. $5 an ornament, and you can choose the decorator or not. But all proceeds go to the PhD.
Those are great to see, though.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Second your point.
Well, I think your schedule is a great start. You start building those relationships and getting going. I really like this new schedule.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it publicly because he'll get awkward, but this was the brainchild of Justin. We as a committee look at several different, we read far more than what we wanted to read about schedule, and some of us who have been having that conversation in topic for a long time have seen every schedule that there is to offer, and what Justin did was phenomenal of doing something unique and original that similar to what other schools are doing, but is unique to Prospect.
I like it. It's really well done.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm curious about why the seniors are getting new Chromebooks.
So, who did we replace today? Seniors we replaced today. So, a few weeks ago, we took the juniors' Chromebooks from them and issued them new Chromebooks. We collected those junior Chromebooks, wiped them out and cleaned them, and redistributed them to the seniors because the ones that the seniors have are terrible.
Yes.
The motherboard, they're starting to go out at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah.
We're spending far more time fixing them and handing out loaners, and so the decision was made. We collected juniors, which is only at this point 3 years old. It's a better device, it's a faster device, and we redistributed those to the seniors. Did that today.
Okay, so we didn't have to buy a whole bunch of new for the juniors.
We actually, the ones that we purchased were ones that we had ordered a year ago that we just recently were able to get.
I was just curious because we were limping along with ours, and it was not good, but I didn't it just seemed like we were almost to the finish line and wasn't sure why we needed to.
We ordered this set in the spring last year, knowing that they may not arrive until November, but that was.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah, so the teachers get a faster, better device today.
Good. That's good.
Do they know they got hand-me-downs from the juniors?
They do now. I was very careful how I worded the original email and said, you're getting a newer.
Newer.
So some of them came today with stickers.
I missed that nuance.
Free stickers, perfect. Pre-decorated.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, the aesthetic is less important than the feel. I mean, so many kids were having problems with, there were 3 letters that wouldn't work.
Yeah.
It was awful.
All right, we'll move on to the superintendent's report.
Don't blink. The rate of new COVID-19 cases per 100,000 of population in Belknap County is up to 1,168 today. It is at its highest level since August. However, here in the school, we have 4 cases among students and 1 among staff. We are experiencing consistently since the first day of school about this same relatively very low level, knock on wood and all that. I can't explain it, but that's what's happening, and I have no recommendation for any change in operations at the high school. And that's my report.
That's amazing, because what I heard today is New Hampshire is the #1 state in COVID cases and hospitalizations.
We have been for a week or so.
Don't tell our students.
Do we have any idea what, any idea? I mean, maybe the newer building and the ventilation has something to do with it.
Jay?
I honestly,
I mean, we're not supposed to talk about this.
you know, we're walking that fine line of still imposing mitigating strategies without imposing them.
Yeah.
You know, clearly people are allowed to be unmasked, but I think by and large people are consciously aware that we don't need to be face to face unless we're the boyfriend and girlfriend who are face to face regardless. You know, we've kept seats in the cafeteria more spread out. And just literally in the past, I think since we've come back from Thanksgiving, have allowed them to pull that 5th chair up to a table. So the nature of the classrooms, they're smaller class sizes, not as many people in it. We're doing a pretty good job staying on top of it. Nurse School Bar has been phenomenal, where, you know, if you don't feel good, you go down to the nurse, she'll text you, get you out, do everything that needs to get done. And, you know, I give credit to students and parents that they're playing by the rules, that if they're not feeling good, they're not coming in. And that's probably the handedly the biggest factor.
Yeah, I will say, my youngest had a cough right at the beginning of school and was tested negative twice. And she said, you can come back to school. And he came back for one day and then went home because he said it's just too hard to be in school and be coughing. You just can't, you know.
Yeah, and it's the same thing that we all face. You know, you're at the grocery store and somebody sneezes and you're like,
Dodge it.
That's what's happening here. So fortunately, people have been good with it. They've been behaving well. I just hope it continues.
We're also at almost half the enrollment the building was designed for. And I mean, I hate to bring that, it's a sore subject for all of us, but it means there's enough space. People in this building are relatively spread out.
All right, we'll move on to our 3rd item here, which is the Enrollment Options Committee report.
We have a meeting Friday with Milton, so I think everybody did get you sent the draft to everybody.
Just the 4 of them.
Okay, so we have a meeting on Friday. You might have a meeting on Friday, so we'll see how it goes from there, but we have a good plan put together. There's a draft that's put together. It's pretty solid, but doesn't mean, you know, still going to negotiate. We'll see where they're at, what they're looking for. And, you know, I can always speak to the high school stuff. I mean, you know, you guys are having different, whatever you're doing at home, so. Yeah.
I would just add, for everybody's sake, if something comes together, if your representatives and the representatives of the Milton School Board come to a tentative agreement, this happens very, very quickly. They submit, Milton, their warrant articles in January. So if they're going to do that, if their school board decides to do that, that'll happen during the first week in January.
Wow.
And there will be a significant amount of public information that has to be
And when do
distributed.
they anticipate closing their school? The year after that?
I think that
It's going to be part of
I know
negotiation.
on Friday.
You're talking about addition, that's huge. It's not like they're putting, I mean, the high school kids are fine, but we're talking in elementary school, they would have to have an addition.
And they've met, and we'll talk about it next week, and I think have a workable tentative plan.
Okay.
But I will say the four of us that were on the subcommittee, and I know Karen was involved kind of remotely, but did meet, and we went over the document and tweaked it, and did a little bit of editing to get it ready for review by the attorney, so that the two that we selected to meet with the two school board members would be, we'd all be on the same page and ready for negotiation.
I just say, anybody remembers the other document we used? We cleaned up some stuff that we had done previously that was actually way above our base of what we started with. I'll just put it that way. So we brought back to base, I put it that way.
Right. We
Yeah,
kept
if you have any further questions, I can tell you.
Simple.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was, we started with something that a lot of it had been put in there for Gilmington, trying to woo them, and then we said,
Yes.
Right.
well, we've got to take that out.
I was dancing around it, but yeah. That's exactly what we did.
And we meet again on Friday, so more to come.
Yeah, so those two meetings are one right after the other on Friday. So there's a meeting of the representatives of the high school board, and then immediately following that, there's a meeting of the folks representing the Alton board, and that way the folks from Milton can just stay.
Makes sense?
Okay, thank you. All right, in our packet was a youth risk behavior surveillance system, the YB, this is for your benefit, Jason. This is the YRBSS program.
So there's a decision point with this. That's why it's listed under action items for you, and Jay can jump in, but the decision is, will the school participate in the National Youth Risk Behavior Survey? Some boards feel strongly that they don't want their students to participate in this. I'll invite Jay to speak to it if he cares to.
A little background here at Prospect. I want to say that the last time we gave this survey was maybe 2008, 2009. And we've brought it to the board over the years and had a healthy dialogue about whether or not it's worth doing. Honestly, for full transparency, I've never been one in favor of it. And the reason being is that it provides a lot of what I will define as unhelpful data. Now, the state will, and they do tell us that collecting this information helps them fund and promote programs countywide, statewide. And my argument has always been, you know that these things are a problem, and you should have, you should have programs that are already in place. You do not need that specific data, because what local communities end up doing is looking at a school and saying, oh my God, 85% of those kids drove in a car with somebody who was drunk. Now, we don't know. The survey is done anonymously. It is a disruption to our day. It's a very specific thing that is done. But we don't know if kids take it seriously. We don't know if they take it just thinking, oh, this is fine. But the data ends up becoming something that can be harmful. And my personal position on it has always been, state, fund the county. You know that vaping is an issue. You know that mental health is an issue. You know that all of these things exist. Fund them. Don't hold schools hostage to have to give a survey in order to fund these programs. With that being the case, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't come to you and say, what is your pleasure on this one? Do you want to have kids take this?
How long does the survey take?
That's a good question. It's about a
It's under an hour.
90-question survey.
Under an
So it can be done pretty quickly.
I know,
So-
but you brought this to us before,
Yep.
and we declined to participate.
Yes.
Okay, so that's gonna be my question. This isn't just now coming up since 2009. Okay, all right.
And this is
That was my-
something
I've
that
been here 5
most
years,
schools.
it's brought up.
Okay.
Most schools in New Hampshire do give the survey, and every school I've been associated with it finds it very valuable. But it's important that parents can opt out. That's an important part of it. I don't know if parents have to give permission for this one. I think this one's excluded in the state law. We had to look either this one's specifically excluded or parents have the ability to opt out. But it is something that's used, most counselors that I work with find it very, very valuable and couldn't really do their work without it because the numbers that they get allow them to apply for certain grants. And, just a lot of things are data driven and I've never heard it portrayed in this negative light before, ever.
I just feel that with the size of our school and the staff the caring staff that we have and administration and the whole guidance area, I think our counselors, they know our students. They know our students already.
I agree. It should be on a case-by-case basis. I think if there needs to be further maybe evaluation of a student, but I don't think it's something that should be given across the board.
So I just want to add that some of the questions are very pointed and explicit, and it does upset some of the kids.
I was just about to ask, is the same question, same survey given to incoming freshmen that may be 14 and the seniors who are possibly 18 years old?
And so
It trigger people.
it upsets people. It has some after effects. A lot of schools do use it for grants, and that's why one of the reasons is they do give it. I think unless it's absolutely necessary, I would
See,
say
I
no.
have no objection if parents are given the option of opting out. So parents are given the information and say, will you give permission for your child to participate? Then that might be the compromise, that, freshman parents may not want their kids to take it.
But then what does the school do with the data? Probably nothing, right? I mean, it's not like we're acting on the data because
The
you don't know.
data is generalized.
That's
So-
right, it's not specific to
Right,
students, so
right.
so
I'm
now
not
you have all this
sure.
data for
Right.
what? Right,
It's reported regionally in New Hampshire.
Well, it's
So
right,
we're,
something
we
for
get
the
the
state to have.
Winnipesaukee
right.
region data.
Yeah, the only problem I have with that, Carol, or the only concern I have, is that parents may not know how explicit the questions are. Because I heard kids talking about it after they took it and saying, oh, did you hear that? What did you think of that question? Like, that was weird, like,
To Ann's point, question 19. Have you ever been physically forced to have sexual intercourse when you did not want to?
See, I don't think that's crap that we should be asking our students. It's not. It's what a therapist is for. Or the guidance
Why would you
counselor.
ask that question?
That's just one.
That's just one.
That's just
How
one.
many
It's
questions
very-
are on the survey?
Why does it happen? I don't know.
It's very
Get
pointed.
raped.
It's very explicit and it's very pointed.
I know it happens,
I
but
would say
it should be reported. It shouldn't be part of a survey.
A general survey to
They-
vote, like it's not, you don't even.
The reason there's an exception for it in state law is that I think it's one of the only instruments that they have to gather data on the trends of what is happening with teenagers at the local, countywide, and statewide basis. And, if we don't participate, it's not, I don't think it's gonna make a blip in that particular
It's not gonna
data
skew
set,
the data
but,
much, right.
but I think that's why it's given.
It also may be a tough thing to participate in if it hasn't been done in the last few years. So all of a sudden now you're going to have kids coming home and saying, yeah, I did this survey today, they asked these questions, and we haven't done it for years. So it's not like, oh yeah, the high school always does this. I just feel like it's I don't know.
I feel like they do it at the, I don't know. which
Didn't you
school.
say it hadn't been done since 2008?
Yeah, we haven't done it.
But there's a middle school version of it.
There is a middle
But
school
that
version
at least
that we
used to be
get.
done in alternate methods.
Okay.
And it's not annual, it's only done,
Yeah, every few years.
yeah, 5 maybe.
Yeah, there is a middle school version we used to get from our school.
I guess one thing that comes to mind for me is we just heard Jay talk about and the committee talk about how difficult the last 2 years have been and how we're struggling for connections for students to go to here. And I think if there are ways to identify risk factors, especially, if we're looking at a period in time where it's been really tough on kids, even if it's something that's just giving the state information that may have value that way, just to identify what risk factors really need to be focused on.
If it comes back that 20% of your kids have suicidal thoughts or something along those lines, that could be valuable data, especially if it's increased over time.
I just think it helps direct services where we are desperate need of mental health services even before the pandemic in New Hampshire. So they've been supporting, increasing and enhancing services. It has some value that way.
So that was another issue that we took, when I say we, the administration, over the years, is that some of these results, this survey yields results that at the end of the day we can't do anything about. And it really stinks to hear that, 75% of our buildings have used heroin 10 to 19 times. And what are we supposed to do with that other than scratch our head and go, oh my God, my kids are using heroin? But we don't have the resources to do that. Now, will the county get it as a result of our survey data? I haven't seen that happen yet. In fact, one of the last times we gave this was one of the times where the state cut funding from the county, ripped away Chin's petitions. We were collecting local data saying, this is how many kids are not coming to school, this is how many kids are truancy. And all of a sudden, funds were ripped away. So there is certainly value to most surveys on a very, very microscopic level. Anytime that I survey people, I really want to be able to do something with the data. And this is one of those surveys that we as a school are not going to be able to do much with it.
I also think, Jay, if you say that if you get it from a survey that there's a certain percentage of drug use, that's something you have to do something about. I don't know how you can say, oh, well, we're going to get that data and not be able to do anything about it.
Well, because then you don't know who those people are.
Yeah, but that's not the point of picking. It's being able to provide a service that people have access to. I don't know. I think what you just said would be valuable to know, to help kids.
There are things in here that can be valuable. There's no question about it. But then there are some of these invasive questions I don't know what to do with that.
So does the whole high school have to take the survey?
I don't recall if they do, if it's random or if it's the entire high school. Something's sticking in my head that it's the entire school.
Entire school. I just think any data we can gather is valuable to help the kids. I just think that, if the questions offend the children, we can just say, they don't have to answer it. They're in the middle school, we used to give the survey, kids would say, do I have to answer that? No. If you don't want to answer it, don't answer it. It was valuable data that we gathered through that survey. So even if it's just focusing your resource officer on some of these issues with drugs, or the guidance counselors, it just helps them to understand that kids are doing heroin here. We think in Alton, New Hampshire, we don't, but they do. And so therefore, it helps us to understand that.
I will entertain a motion so we can take some action on this
I think
item.
motions are supposed to be in the affirmative, right?
Yes.
So I will move that we give the survey.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
I just think that from the perspective of my own children, I think that if you're saying the questions, they seem like they have the potential to be very invasive. And I think at any given moment, if they're turned off by any one of them, they're going to throw the whole thing out the window. And I don't want to risk their belief in adults because it just feels icky to me. And I just don't think it'll be well received. Just the differing mentalities between students and adults. I don't think they'll see the value, and I don't think they would take it seriously.
Any other discussion?
I think if it's rolled out, it would be important to make sure we communicate to the parents exactly what this is, the intent of the questions and the option to opt out. If I'm being honest, my 14-year-old will not be taking the survey, but I as a parent know my child doesn't, when she's 18 maybe, but for these types of questions, some of the examples just being, I want to shelter her a little bit longer. But I think parents should have that option. So this would be one where I think it's important that we just communicate up front.
I think parents should have a real way to preview the survey, and not just make assumptions, but to actually preview it.
Well, and how's it presented to the students too? Is it just like, here, we have to give this to you, or is there some kind of discussion about why?
There's no discussion.
It's important. Okay. So that in and of itself says you to me. No, thank you.
Well, why couldn't there be a discussion, I guess, as far as...
There's a cover sheet. It is maybe 250 words long. This survey is about health behavior. It has been developed so you can tell us what you do that may affect your health. The information you give will be used to improve health education for young people like yourself. Do not write your name on this survey, etc.
So it's not electronic?
But that's it.
It's canned.
It's not.
It's a can.
Yeah. Is it electronic, or is it?
We can do both paper or electronic. I don't know if they're specific this year, if they're requiring one or the other, but.
I just wonder if it's electronic, sometimes you don't have the option to skip the question. If you have to supply an answer before you can move on.
And then how valuable is that data?
Right.
Because now they're just selecting anything to get through the survey.
And is it school-specific, Tim? Like,
No, the data
it
is
seems like
aggregated,
it's a data
and
dump
somebody
of all
has the database and
The school gets their
knows where.
data back.
but does the state have, like, so say Prospect took the survey, do they know these are the results from Prospect Mountain? Or is it just a general?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's not even like,
It's possible for them to know that
right,
because
right,
we submit them and they know
yeah, where they come from, right.
Yeah, I guess my question is, what are you going to do with the data? I mean, we just heard the presentation about trying to foster relationships and foster all the positivity and the inclusion and the, I don't know, just all the positives. And I hear Karen's point about, having the data. I get just what direction are we going to go? You can't go in every direction. You can't go in every direction, I feel like. I don't know.
Well, I think the survey would help us go in a direction, is what I would think. That's how I look at it. That we look at the survey results and say, this is the direction we need to start focusing on. And maybe it is as simple as building relationships, Maybe more den time. I think 15 minutes a week, I love the den time, but I would love to see more of it. I just think the kids need that connection.
Right, I just think there's a more focused way to zone in on our kids and gauge their mental health than this survey, but.
Oh, I don't think this survey replaces it. I mean, I guess I look at it as this is a survey not just specific to Prospect, but specific to mental health, accessibility, and the state, and what that age group needs. And I guess the other point I might make about some of the questions is it may be the case that some students actually want to be listened to and want to have an opportunity to tell adults in a way of issues and problems that are happening. I mean, otherwise we're just hiding from problems.
Well, I think we've had some questions on this whole thing, whether or not you could opt out, whether or not it's online or paper, or who's going to get the results. Is there a deadline for saying yes or no on this?
Yeah, there is actually. We need to be able to complete this survey prior to winter break, prior to December 22nd, which means your vote tonight puts us in the hot seat tomorrow to schedule this out probably 2 weeks from now.
Right before Christmas.
So if it's what the board wants, there would be time to provide, there's a link. You can go online and read the survey. So that could be provided to parents. Opting out could be managed. There is time if that's what the board wants.
Any other discussion? So we have a positive motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So do I have three?
I
One.
said aye.
Okay, those opposed? All right, not just you. All right, I think we're going to table warrant articles. They're in your packet. You've had a chance to look at them, but the Finance Committee tonight did not take any action on them. We're actually we need to wait on some things before we actually present them to the local districts, specifically on the CBA negotiations. So, and we're still meeting. One of the things we were waiting for was the master schedule that we heard tonight, so that's going to help us in negotiations. So we can move right on to the personnel report.
Did we skip winter sport?
Winter
I'm
sport
sorry. I'm in a hurry, I guess. Jay, winter sports protocols.
Yeah. Well, currently, our winter sports protocols are very similar to our spring sports protocols, which is really non-existent. Schools throughout the state are scrambling to figure out what they should be doing, not getting any guidance from the state or the NHIAA. So everyone is being left to decide on their own. The big question for us is how we feel about spectators. Do we want to allow full spectators? Do we want to force social distancing or mask wearing in the stands? As far as our athletes go, we're at the mercy of what other schools are going to do when we're playing them. If we play Farmington, or Farmington says, sorry, we're a masked school, then our athletes are going to have to either wear a mask or forfeit that game. And when a team comes here, the general rule of thumb has been the hosting school gets to make a decision. So if we say we're mask optional and Farmington says, sorry, we're masked, well, Farmington will then have to make a decision whether or not they want to come here and not wear masks or forfeit the game. So the question that really is on the floor for you all is, what do you want spectators, what do you want that to look like? And I suppose that in fairness, if you have any expectations for our athletes as well.
You brought this up at the last meeting, and we had deferred it, so.
I feel like we have enough space. I mean, I've attended quite a few basketball games here, and I feel like you don't have to sit like right next to somebody if you don't want to. So my opinion would be that we would allow spectators, and that we take the same approach that we have during school and mask optional. So, you know, if you get seated and you're comfortable with the people you're around and you don't want a mask, I think that's up to you. And certainly no one's going to be penalized if they are wearing a mask.
I agree.
I
do have a question. Sorry, Karen.
Well, I just said I agree.
For ACS, I saw some correspondence going around that we're eliminating mouth guards. We're not doing that here, are we?
I have not heard that that's a thing in high school.
Okay.
Eliminating mouth guards?
I haven't heard that either.
Yeah.
There are some
That'll be a
schools-
conversation for next week. I just didn't know if that was applying to the high school, 'cause
some of the middle
safety
school
thing.
leagues have done that, where they've eliminated, just because the kids are constantly
That's it.
taking mouthpieces
Yeah.
in and out, and then touching the ball, high-fiving, what have you.
Yeah, I get
Just
That I
whatever-
get, but I still think for the safety, the kids need to be wearing mouth guards.
Yeah, NHIAA gets to make that rule for us.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, where I don't think,
Well, fine,
I
that's-
don't think middle schools are under the, they don't have an umbrella league that.
Oh, high school is different. Okay, perfect. I think that's the only question I have.
It's interesting. Yeah, I think the suggestion is very reasonable, and I think to follow with when we go to other schools, we follow their rules, and, I mean,
I mean, if Farmington requires masks and they're not comfortable not wearing them, they should wear them. I just feel like.
We're doing the same thing at the elementary school.
And can you remind me last year, what was it? Was it
Masks.
mandated?
Mhm.
So the only thing I would be concerned of, and maybe it'll probably be game by game, is if we run into any schedule issues where all of a sudden we're not having games because these schools won't come to us, or if we just keep a pulse on that. I would hate for some of the kids playing to miss out on half their season because other schools choose not to come to our school, or whatever the case may be.
Priority should be the kids.
Right,
getting to
and
play.
I know
Yeah.
our AD, the elementary school's been asking the other schools, what is your policy? And we'll follow what theirs says, and I'm sure up here too, the kids would rather play.
Well, and I think
They'd
you
rather
came
throw a
to the-
mask on than not remove
If you
that.
came to the teams and said, would you rather not play or put a mask on, I'm sure most of the kids would say, we'll put a mask on. I don't want it to be a decision here that impacts.
Right.
I mean, we're pretty much talking about basketball, we're not talking about skiing.
Right.
Let's be clear.
Right.
Yep, and I should mention to you that indoor track, which is a sport that we've had for many years, is not running this year. The organization, the league, if you will, doesn't have the venues to host indoor track meets. So individual students, I believe, will have the option to make it and participate at the state level meet. But I haven't seen, and I don't know what the bar is for that or what the qualification system is for that, but indoor track won't exist. Ski, it's not that big of an issue. However, we are at the mercy of whatever the hosting ski resorts rules are. And that's going to be things may change as time goes on. With our athletes, all of the ADs have been, and they did this during the spring, they had to do a lot last year as well, so the groundwork is there. They communicate with each other regularly to say, hey, we can't come up there, we had a cluster on our team, or hey, we got to reschedule this game for whatever reason, hey, we're wearing masks for the next 2 weeks, FYI. Everybody's doing that in advance. Nothing short of the surprise that if the school gets itself that they've had an outbreak, everybody's communicating well enough in advance to know what to expect.
So
do we need a vote?
Yeah, do we need a vote, or do we need a motion, or are we good?
Consensus.
Yeah, I just need a consensus. I mean, do you feel it?
Spectators in and up to them wear masks.
Yeah, I think it has to be the same policy we have for the kids, so that's fine.
Right, and we'll just work with the other schools and.
And again, next month it may change. It may
Right.
that we have a huge outbreak, and hey, guess you know, it's a chance to go, never mind, you're all wearing masks.
Or it could all go away and we just don't have to worry about it. Let's think positive.
Growth mindset,
Why do we have to go to the dark side?
That Omnicom coming to get you.
Eunice, do we need to vote on the schedule, or Tim?
It's not done
I
yet.
think you should take some action, endorse. I mean, at a minimum,
The masters.
those of you, the schedule proposal from the committee, those of you involved in negotiations need to know if the board is,
I'll make a
moving in
motion.
this direction.
I would,
Make a motion that the board supports the idea of the new schedule.
the
as presented-
proposal,
As presented.
yeah.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
Me too.
Me too.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Pam, for
You're welcome.
reminding me. All right, now we can move on to the personnel report.
I move we accept Kathy Niel, Norm Gilbert, and Troy Corvo for their advisory roles.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll now open up the second public input.
I just want to throw out there that today was the first, we call it scrimmage basketball game. Alton went over to the Barnstead Elementary School boys. And as for the girls, we went over to Alton today. Alton girls have like 20 girls over there, but are very young and tentative in basketball. So what we did was 5 of us as coaches went over and actually did an open gym in Alton and worked with all the Alton girls and our girls. And actually our girls have a lot more skills, just throw it out there. We have them coach the kids and we coached, and at the end we played a little scrimmage for the last half hour instead of their first game. No real refs besides me and another parent. And we mixed the teams up. It went really, really well. They're going to come back on Thursday. I'm not sure if we're going to do full scrimmage or how we're going to manage it, but the goal is to try to beef up Alton since they're both coming to the high school. And Ryan McKenna, who coaches for us, is a top-level basketball coach. He's coached from college all the way down. And a lot of kids you see up here playing at the high school, but for the girls, are very stellar because of, like, Hannah Capsell's made varsity freshman year. Her sister probably do the same thing when she comes up next year. So us helping Alton is going to be nothing but beneficial, and it went really well. So just let you know, we were in your school today, helping out.
Awesome. Thank you. That's great. I'd like to see more of that between the two school districts.
We do it more than you think. We did soccer.
Yeah.
We do it.
Yeah.
And for sports-wise, I can tell you.
And not just sports,
Yeah.
but maybe, trying to, that's awesome.
The indoor soccer has mixed parts.
Well, Barnstead's hosting the vaccination clinic, right? And that's open to Alton students
Everybody.
and parents and, yeah.
Prospect students.
So they're saying there's a lot of club sports. I know it's all sports, but club sports, indoor soccer, competitive soccer, that these two
They
towns
mix
mix a lot, and a lot more than you guys, a lot of people you
Right,
see.
yeah.
We're there to go soccer every single weekend, and see half the kids from Alton.
So am I.
Yep. So you have kids from Alton and Barnstead mixing it, and actually a lot from Wolfboro.
It's great, 'cause
That makes sense.
now these kids, they're playing together. My son's 10, but the goal is when they come to high school,
They
they're
know
gonna be
each
on
other.
the
Exactly.
So-
same team.
Yeah.
So it's
And
great.
we've identified that. I mean, we have somebody can actually help out the other Alton. And again, it's selfish for up here, absolutely. So, but it was a lot of fun. The girls had fun. We pushed them, and then we'll see how they come on Thursday.
Awesome.
Seeing no public input, I'm going to close public input. We don't need a non-public, do we?
Do.
Which one?
It's a personnel matter.
91A, colon 3, C.
Will this schedule go out while we're still sort of public to students and the public? I'm sure people will be talking about it tomorrow, so
We'll draft up on the website or
You
something.
guys can work on something.
not the agenda, sorry, the schedule.
I guess
As a preliminary.
I'll take your
We can
direction
talk.
as to what you think we should do. I mean,
Start talking in principle about
Yeah.
what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather see them get the right information.
I think that should be a
Especially for the-
decision of the committee, let them decide.
But for the varying start times during the day, I think that's important information for parents
Maybe
to have.
encourage the
I actually had a
committee to
problem with that,
communicate.
We'll just do
the varying start times, but I think, especially for the older students that are thinking about going on to college, I mean, it's something they're gonna have to face eventually, so
Yeah.
it's all
It'll be
part of
fine.
growing up, so.
You get to sleep in 2 days a week, that'll be fun.
I didn't want to think of it that way.
Well, it
they
also
will.
could be a time when if kids had a morning appointment for the doctor, I mean, that way you're not missing as much school, things like that.
Sleeping in, I think, will be their goal.
Right.
There you
Sleeping a
go.
little
I meant from a
later.
parent
That's my kid. I'll have to get up.
I know Libby.
So Alter, we
Sleeping
move into non-public under RSA 91-A:3C.
Second?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.